We are recording.
Okay, hello everyone. This is the Amherst Energy and Climate Action Committee, which was organized to guide the town in meeting its climate mitigation and resilience goals. Those goals and the plan for getting there are adopted from the Climate Action Adaptation and Resilience Plan, which is excellent reading, the CARP, which was accepted by the town council in 2021. It takes 2016 as its base year and calls for a 25% reduction in carbon emissions by 2025, 50% by 2030, and neutrality by 2050. So this committee has two functions. One is to advise the town council and recommend or propose policies or actions that will help meet those goals. And two is to promote a just, equitable, and speedy climate response through outreach and engagement. So with that, we move on to our agenda for the day, which always starts out with assigning a note taker, even though it's not on the agenda. And I think I have Laura and Andrew's here as the two people who have done it farthest away now, right? Because Steve did it last time, right?
I will do it next time. I just have had all meetings today at my work, so I need to, yeah.
Laura, you
I'll do
willing
it
to
next
do it
time.
today?
I can do it today, but how long's the agenda? I probably will have to drop off at 6:30, but if we think of the agenda, not that long.
If it goes over than that, maybe we can get someone to take over. Stephanie, could I just get you to fill in, or?
I'll take over if it goes over that. Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we review and vote on the minutes, which I have right here. Let me just find them. Minutes. I will share the minutes, which were short and sweet again. Love it. Okay. So here are the minutes. No public comment. Op-ed, Sustainability Festival information. Yay. Education and outreach. Hopefully we'll have more to talk about there this week. Wasn't a lot on the agenda last week. Advisory and support. And I think the most important thing were the staff updates, which are down here. Right. Should I keep going? There's just a little bit more. Any comments? Do we have a move to accept the minutes as they are?
I'll move.
Thank you, Don. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, and if I could have you unmute so you can give me your vote. Goldner,
Yes.
Issing,
Yes.
Kalrath,
Yes.
Leinung,
Yes.
Drucker,
Yes.
Roof,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Great,
And
minutes are approved.
All right, let me close that. We have no attendees at the moment, so no public comment. So we go right on then to the op-ed submission. So I don't know how many of you have read this. I hope you all have, but I thought it was awesome. Let's see, I didn't have any comments on it, so I thought it said exactly what it needed to say.
Well, thanks, Lori.
Yeah. And it gets a lot of information out in relatively little space. I don't think people know about the suit.
I have a question or two and some.
Go ahead.
Massachusetts does have a climate superfund act being considered in both the House and the Senate, and I wondered if it would be worth mentioning it here and particularly asking people to write to their legislatures to support Climate Superfund Act.
What does it do, Steve? Is it Massachusetts funds then? That would be, what,
Yes, it's called an act establishing a climate change superfund, also known as the Make Polluters Pay or Climate Superfund Act.
who are they gonna collect fee? Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, I don't know the details. I do have links that do describe that. And I just found it half an hour ago. Because I thought I had heard about it. There's a couple places if you probably could Google it pretty quickly. The House version is H.872 and the Senate version is S.481.
Let's see if I can find it.
But I don't know where
Oh,
it is at in the process.
An
But
act.
it seemed as I was reading this, there's not too much of an ask in this editorial. Like, what do we want people to do? And I thought it might be good to have some kind of a ask mentioned at the end of the first paragraph and then reinforced down near the bottom.
So it's been sent to committee. There was a hearing this week. And there's the Senate did the same thing. So the Senate and House both referred it to committee, and there was a hearing this week. I wonder how that went. Accompanied by a study order. So maybe that was in April, though. That was earlier. Oh, that was back in 2024. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not this week. That was 2 years ago. So this is 2023 and 2024. So I'm not sure this is a current bill.
Well, I might have missed the year on that as well.
But I think it's a good point. We can certainly say that Massachusetts has introduced a similar bill in the past and then specifically call out. So, because I do think we need to make a clearer ask. It's a
Yeah.
little bit vague, so we could say specifically.
Would somebody like to contact Mindy Dome and Joe Comerford and ask if they are supporting or if they know of such a bill? Someone want to be tasked with that? I can do it if nobody else wants to. Okay, so if no volunteers, Laura, just stick in the notes that I will follow up on that.
I think there's a good chance that Mindy Dom has. I'm seeing a map and her face shows up near Amherst as a sponsor, or not sponsor, but supporter, has co-sponsored the bill.
Yeah. I think what we need to know is what the current status is, if it's been reintroduced in the current
Right.
Congress, right? Because otherwise it's not active.
Actually, there's a red circle around them, so I don't know. Maybe they haven't supported it. This map is not clear.
Contact Mindy Dome and Joe Comerford and ask about a bill creating a super fund for climate.
Is this the Make Polluters Pay?
Yeah.
Act?
Yes, that's what I've seen.
H1014.
Ooh, H1014.
I just looked up. There's a scorecard website and it says Mindy Dome sponsored H1014. I don't know if that's the current one though.
That's a different number than I saw, but that may be the
Okay.
newer one.
This may be the new number. Let's see, but this is, yes,
Got
this
it.
is introduced in February of 25. So this is the
Ah.
correct one. This is the correct one.
H1014. Okay.
It sounds like the same thing.
Well,
Establishing a climate change super fund. Yep.
she sponsored whatever she's listed as a sponsor on scorecard.progressivemass.com. And Joe Comerford is as well.
Good.
So they may we should maybe email them saying thank you for your support of this.
Did you say 1014?
Yes, H1014 S588.
It shows up as current as much as 3 days ago. So
Good.
Yeah.
H1014. I'm seeing something different.
H1014. Here, I'll put I can't, there's no chat to put a link in, but if you,
Mhm.
H1014.
The 194th,
That's,
Right,
194th session.
there we go. That's why I did find it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, so that's really good. I'll reach out and I'll ask them where it is and what they need from us, if they need, phone-in support, if they need us to be reaching out to friends in other districts. Are there specific districts that are blocking it? That's always really useful to know. Things like that. Because this seems like a no-brainer to me. Everybody should be doing this.
So I made some edits to the text, just sort of reorienting it around asking people to support that Make Polluters Pay Act. And I don't suppose we need to go do those details right now, but I could send this to whoever is taking the lead on writing it.
Yeah, okay, so who's gonna take over from here? Is that gonna be you, Laura, or is Tony gonna finish it up, or Tony? Yeah, okay, so I'd say send it to Tony at this point,
That's fine.
Okay,
and then we'll finalize it next time and get it out right immediately after. We do have a meeting next time, right? June, what is it, 5th or something like that? We have a quorum for that meeting? Anyone
As far
not
as
gonna-
I know. Yeah, people should let me know their vacation schedules. When we get to staff updates, I'll coordinate with you all.
All right, cool, so I'll do a little so I'll check in with Mindy, and I'll also just, if it's doesn't break any rules, I will CC everybody on what I learn, or CC Tony on what I learn, or send
Why
Tony. What can I
Uh,
do?
No, we should just discuss it at the next meeting, or
Okay.
I think that's probably the best way to,
Okay,
you don't want to communicate outside.
all right, that's what I'll do then. And good. So that's good, excellent. Anything else on, let me stop sharing, I think. I should say, are there any other comments? I didn't even finish scrolling down through it almost, but any other comments on this letter?
I guess I think the only comment I would make is that while I completely agree we want to have a clear ask, I don't want to lose the fact that this is something that is happening now and will continue to happen. And so we need to
Yeah.
remember that when we're bitching at each other about potholes and school funding and all the things
Right.
we yell at each other about. So I want to make sure that somehow stays. At the same time, noting that we should do something about it, and this is the best way to do something about it.
Good. I think making a few tweaks to the last paragraph probably won't lose any of that. Because it's already there. I mean, the ask is already there. It's just, it can be a little more specific.
Yeah.
That's all. All right, anything else? No, in that case, we stop share. And on to the next thing, which is Amherst Sustainability Festival debrief. Okay, so I have a few things, and I'm sure others do. Does anyone want to go first? Talk a little bit about the experience at the Sustainability Festival?
it was fun.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to meet people there. When I went, it was in the afternoon and the farmers market was gone, so there were more vendors than people, but of the people I met, it was a cool conversation, and yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was, I think because it was had to be rescheduled because of weather, it was not as well attended as last year. It was pretty much more vendors than people all day. But there were people who stopped by. I think I sent at least 3 of them to the heat pump program and got another 3 clients for heat pump coaching. So, that's sort of about 2 or 3, something like that. So it's, it was not well attended, but it was fun to talk to people. There was a lot to talk about. Anyone else have any before I?
I think it was also the weather that day, not just that it was rescheduled. I think it was the weather itself was pretty cool and rainy in the morning, and then it was just wet on the common all day and muddy.
Yeah.
And windy. We can't forget the wind gusts.
That was fun. couple of
Which
escape-
caused us to shut down a little early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It turned out to be a nice day. It was-
Yeah, I
yeah.
know, of course.
started out pretty wet.
but windy. So there were a few things. I put out a little spreadsheet that had, you can't see it, but a little clipboard that had some things that you can do for the public, like, you know, get a mass safe energy audit, join Valley Green Energy, blah, blah, blah. There are 6 or 8 things. And then under it, I put your ideas. What can we, what do you want to see happening? What do you want to do? And I got some really interesting comments. I got at least 2 comments about bicycles, and that Amherst is now the least bicycle friendly community in our surrounding area, that everybody else is better, including Hadley on Route 9.
Hmm.
And that Hadley now regularly paints green paint for where the bicycles cross intersections. There's like these green lanes, which this particular bicyclist really appreciated. And he noted that at the corner of University and Route 9, and I think I confirmed this, the Hadley side of that intersection is painted and the Amherst side is not. And when he called Amherst to complain about this, he was told that we don't use green paint in Amherst. Seriously, it was apparently told that. I have seen green paint used in Amherst. There's at least one intersection I've seen it at. So I don't know what the issue is. But it's sort of convolved in with another person who had all the same complaints that I always have, which is that the roads, every time they fix the potholes, they make the margins of the road more unrideable and more dangerous to bicycles. And they need to find a different way to fix the potholes that goes all the way into the margin. And I have, you know, been sending emails about that, or sending complaints about that for years, or suggestions about that for years, and getting nowhere. And you know, people were really concerned about that, and also about how you get cars off the road, how you separate cars from bicycles. There are lots of places in Amherst where the roads are just so dangerous to bike on. It's terrifying. And I can, you know, I'll go 40, 50 miles in a ride on a weekend, and nothing is more dangerous than getting back to my house along Pelham Road. So yeah, and the Amherst part of Pelham Road specifically. Well, I guess if it's Pelham Road, it's in Amherst. It's Amherst Road in Pelham. So that we got a bunch of things like that. Somebody also brought up gas-powered leaf blowers, and this is a very common complaint everywhere. But they thought maybe the town could do some outreach around letting people know that, you know, there are even rebates for some electric lawn equipment these days. I don't know if leaf blowers on the list or not. And just getting people to not use leaf blowers at all is another thing, because even the electric ones are loud, and to start raking again like we used to when we were young. So those are the sort of ideas that we got. And I do think that finding a way to work on the bicycle issue would be a good one, if we can maybe just write something again. We did this a couple of years ago now, I think, wrote a letter to the town council about, or maybe a TAC about finishing the bicycle plan. And I know this is related to the pothole issue and everything else, but it really is bad, and there really needs to be something done. So maybe there's something we can figure out to do about that. There were a few other things that came up. Let me see if there's anything here. Oh, one thing I didn't know about that somebody clued me into is that Barstow Farm. So some of you know I've been looking into renewable fuels in regards to UMass. And one thing I didn't realize is that Barstow Farm, which is that really nice farm stand on 47 south from Route 9, they have a really big farm stand right at the base of the Holyoke Range there. They have a biogas digester, and they give tours. They apparently also have some novel heating scheme that they use on some of their rental properties there. So the person I spoke to rents one of their outbuildings, I guess. Once they have a building with apartments that they rent, or maybe it's a house that he rents on the property. I'm not really sure. But sounds like they have some sort of central heating thing going, district heating sort of thing, or something like that. At any rate, I'd love to know more about what they do and how they use their biogas and how much they produce and where it goes. So if anybody's interested in a tour, let me know. It's not worth it. They have a single price. It's like $50, and you can bring up to 30 people. So maybe it's something that ECAC could arrange even. you know, as an outreach thing with folks who are interested. Has anyone been there? Has anyone seen this thing? Oh yeah, Steve, that's right. Steve.
Yeah,
and
I've been there. I've taken some classes from Hampshire College there, and it's pretty neat. You can get some background on the biogas generation. You can see the top of the tank,
Don.
it's mostly underground. If you're lucky, you might see some big tanker trucks from Cabot or other companies coming in to offload.
Cool.
And they give a good presentation. And then what I thought was cool is in the building right near that is basically just a big truck engine that's running from the methane that's produced to generate electricity. And that electricity and heat is transmitted out to the farm and neighboring houses.
They do have a sort of district heating thing set up.
Yeah.
It's
And
really
then
cool.
added bonus, it's not exactly related, is you can then walk up to the cow barns and see the robotic cow milker setup that they have for their dairy cows, which is pretty cool. So
maybe-
it's fun to do, and then it's fun to stop in their shop afterwards and get a sandwich or ice cream or pastry. So it's a good half day outing.
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds to me awesome. I know UMass also sends their food waste there. So it's interesting for a lot of reasons. Yeah, okay, so any interest, is this something, if I set up a tour, would anyone else be interested in going, or should we advertise it, you know, town-wide, an Amherst tour of the Barstow facility in Hadley, sort of thing? Does that make sense, Stephanie?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you know, ECAC is sponsoring a tour, you know, and then I could see, I don't know if I can, maybe I can pay for it. I mean, if it's only $50 for 30
it's like
people, I should be able, I'm wondering if I can use some of my funds that I have. I'll ask, because if I can, then I would just pay for the tour,
Yeah,
but it can be like an ECAC sponsored tour.
and we can find a day in the summer that, you know, and hopefully won't pour. If we wait till July, later in July, maybe it won't pour all day. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. I would be happy to, you know, organize it. It'd be nice if the town could be a town thing and the town could pay for it, but I would even be willing to front that.
Well, that's why I think if it's like officially like the ECAC is sponsoring it,
Yeah. Mhm.
then that's why I'll see if I can do that and I can work with you. We can coordinate together on that.
That would be a really fun thing to do. Okay, cool. And I think that's it. There were some other people there who wanted to be put in contact with different folks, which I will follow up on this week, but yeah, I think that's all I have. Anything else? If not, let's move on to talking about an education series. I do think this is something we should start doing again. We should maybe plan. I would even like to see this done, you know, once a month. At the first meeting every month, we have somebody here to talk about something. There's so many things that people need to know about, right? Especially with the landscape changing the way it is. You know, we had some ideas last time. What were folks? Let's just open up. Let's do a little brainstorming here. What are folks thinking would be good education series topics? What are you personally excited about? Anything from electric vehicles to heat pumps to making your own biogas generator in your backyard.
Laurie, I had a meeting
Go ahead.
today. I have my hand up, sorry. I had a meeting today with Solomon Goldstein Rose
Oh, yeah, so did
about
I.
yes,
Yesterday.
he said he ran into you. Yeah. So he was interested. I told him that maybe, you know, this would be a good topic. He's working on developing some kind of a new company that's renewable systems using geothermal, but like true geothermal, not heat pump geothermal. So
I
like
know,
it's
yep.
mining and or basically, digging a well deep, really deep. But he could present the information and sort of update people on what what the potential is for that kind of a technology and where it's used and how it's used. And
Yep.
so anyway, I just thought that would be a good education series topic. It would be interesting. It's cutting edge. It's new.
Yeah, I think it would be too. Thanks for mentioning that. I was actually going to talk about that in ECAC updates. So this is a technology that has been used to make electricity. So this is geothermal energy used to make electricity, and it's been used widely in places like Utah or Washington State, or in places around the world where the lava isn't too far down, where there's more active, where first of all it's mostly sedimentary rock, and secondly there's heat not far below the surface, serious heat. And if you can get it to 200, if you can get to 200 degrees C, you can start generating steam and generating electricity with this. If you dig deep enough, right? The problem is that it's never been done. To do it in a place like New England, you have to go, I think it's 8 to 12 kilometers deep. The deepest wells in the world are already 20 kilometers deep. I think they've gone that far for drilling for oil, but not through the sort of rock we have in New England. So my understanding of this is that the big challenge here is how you get through the rock. It could be a very long process, but he seems to think that he has people interested in trying to do this, and it's something that UMass has been discussing. I don't think they're going to go for it because they don't want to do anything that they already made the mistake once before of building some sort of a coal plant that they could never use many, many years ago. And they put a lot of money into it and then couldn't use it. So they don't want something that might not work. They put all this, even if they're not putting money into it, I think they might not want to even sink the time into it, because Solomon's idea is that he can get people to come in. Right now UMass doesn't build its own solar for the most part. They have one field that's theirs. They bring a third party in to build solar and then sell them back the electricity at so many cents a kilowatt hour, right? And the same thing would be true of this. They would bring somebody in to spend 2 years digging and figuring out if they can even get a well that'll work, and then building a power plant around it. So my sense is that UMass will not go for this because it's too exploratory. But everything else is also, they're also talking about maybe getting a discussion going about small modular reactors, nuclear reactors, and that's also likely to be extremely controversial in the area, and also hasn't been done yet. It's been talked about, but not actually done. It can be done. There's designs, right? And I think China and Russia have been doing it, or China and India have been doing it, but we haven't. So it's an interesting idea, and I think it would make. He has a little presentation he put together. It would probably make a very nice presentation. People might be interested in it, and it is the problem that we're facing right now. How do you get clean energy that when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, right? So, okay, that's a good one.
Lori has our Laura has her hand up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, thanks. I was gonna say actually that I think we should take maybe a step back and figure out what we want our educational series to do. I think, is it about individual behavior changes? I think a lot of our other educational series were kind of more focused on that, like how do you get a heat pump? What's our experience with electric cars, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't hurt to redo those if we want to keep doing that thing, If we want to focus more on systems changes, or like engaging, like what are some of the policies that are being discussed and which ones do we want to maybe advocate for as a community, like that's a kind of a different series that could also be interesting. I think this idea is more like sharing new solutions, which could also be another series. It feels like there's less of a clear, like, this is what you do next piece of that as like community members, but maybe I'm missing that piece. But I kind of feel like it would be interesting if we we lose steam after a while. So I would suggest we pick like a theme, 3 to 5 topics, set up 3 to 5 educational sessions on that topic, and then take a breath and restart, you know what I mean? Instead of, so whether we plan something and start it in the fall, it's like the fall ECAC educational series every month on Wednesday for the next 4 months, we're going to be talking about ways to whatever our theme is, right?
I like that, Laura, thank you. That's really good suggestion. I'm sitting here making notes. The sorts of things that occur to me we could pick to talk about, for example, are exactly things like policy. What policy things are up before the state? There's a bunch of stuff right now. There was a new bill that would allow, that I think the governor is somehow proposing, that would allow nuclear development to happen in the state again, for example. There's this Superfund bill. We could have discussions on that. I just saw a presentation at LEA yesterday about a bill that would allow, there are these 10 demonstration towns that are part of some initial cohort that is all new building and renovations have to be completely fossil fuel free. And there's a bill in front of the legislature to expand that. So that's 3 things right there that could be presentations, right, on the politics. We could also have a new solutions, along with that, where we talk about, let's talk about small modular reactors in Amherst. That would be, I bet we'd get an audience. Let's talk about deep geothermal. Let's talk about whatever else we can think of to talk about. Pick maybe 3 solutions, things that people might want to think about. That's what just came into my mind. What else? What else do we have?
It's not relevant to Amherst, but offshore wind is one of the more promising ones, although we've seen the downsides where a fan breaks or a blade breaks and then the whole thing gets shut down. But, wind blows constantly in the ocean. That's pretty consistent. It doesn't really slow down. If it did, we'd have bigger problems. So that's like another answer that Europe uses much more than we do.
And if I'm not wrong, I think we're in a part of the world that has one of the highest potentials, if not the highest potential for harvesting wind, right?
Yes.
So
the jet stream goes directly. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that could be another example. Like we pick one topic like electricity and we cover like what's the problem?
right.
What, we've got a lot of electricity being generated from dirty sources. We have huge growth in electricity due somewhat to electrification, which we need, but also due to things like AI and other things that we could debate whether we need. And then there's, what policies are in place to make electricity more clean? What new solutions are out there? Like we could do kind of like these different things on one system that we need to change.
Right.
What's happening in Amherst, and like Stephanie could talk about the solar that we've done and like what other things we could do.
And then connecting it back of like, why does electricity rates constantly increase? That information session, I think, would be really helpful there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually not a bad one, because I think there are, with Valley Green Energy, especially this time of year, they are not the cheapest out there by quite a lot. And I think understanding what's going to be happening this winter or next winter and why Valley Green Energy might make sense would be useful. Yeah, the basic rate now is less, right?
Yeah, but again, the
yeah.
utility prices change every 6 months.
Every
So
6 months, that's
it's
right.
very likely that they're going to go up.
And they'll probably be higher this winter, and that's when the
Right.
big usage is.
And this is the thing about staying with it, and encouraging people to stay with it, because our price is locked in for 2 years. So even though right now the utility basic rate is less expensive, it will be, it's very likely that the utility rate's going to go up and be more next time, I think.
So there's a lot of ideas here. I think what I'd like to see is let's try to get the minutes out a little earlier this time with some of these ideas on them. Maybe I'll even send a note out just to everybody with the ideas I heard and a certain organization of them. And then what I'd like to do next time is collect names. Who do you think would make a good presenter for some of these? Who do you think we should talk to? Do you know someone? So we have Solomon Goldstein Rose for geothermal, but you know, who would talk about small modular reactors, or who would talk about offshore wind? I'm sure there's somebody at UMass that can do that, given the wind program there. That might even be Dwayne. Not sure. You know, and also policies. So I know who to talk. Lisa Cunningham is the one to talk to about the fossil fuel free legislation. I'm not sure. Maybe we get Mindy Dome or someone to talk about some of the other the Superfund. That might be interesting. Lisa.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, if we might be able to get Mindy Dome to talk about the Superfund and other, what's happening in the legislature of Massachusetts. I think that could be a big draw. That could be a wide interest.
I would be happy to talk about a non-solution, but maybe that's not what we want.
There was some action last week out of the governor's office, wasn't there, for some climate action?
Small modular reactors, that one, or
Well, I mean, I saw that discussed. I think I understood that will take a modification of the state constitution, which requires a statewide vote on adding nuclear power in Massachusetts.
yeah,
Good luck.
So that was fairly, yeah, that's out there. But I'm seeing a lot of states are turning their attention to the possibilities of small nuclear reactors.
yeah.
But that'll be 10
SMR.
years out plus. But I thought there was some other efforts. Some of it, I think, was trying to reduce energy bills. That's been an item that politicians have been working on this past year, probably by demand of the constituents. Something to
Yeah, it
reduce
was
the
called
cost of the monthly bills.
It's called the Energy Affordability, Independence, and Innovation Act. So it does have that nuclear piece to it, but it has a lot of other good stuff in it as
Yeah,
well.
what was the name of that again? Energy, hang on. let me write
Energy
that down.
Affordability, Independence, and Innovation Act.
Was this where they were suspending some of the renewable energy and efficiency surcharges that show up on people's bills?
I'd have to, the only thing I'm familiar with about it is that it includes this inclusive utility investments work that CET has been doing
Yeah.
pilots of. So I haven't read the bill in detail to know what else is in there, but I know that CET is excited. I just actually had met with them on other things and talking before this bill came out, or this act came out. You know, it's a really great program, and they've been working with municipal utilities for several years to and basically the utility takes all the upfront capital cost associated with doing energy efficiency upgrades in a person's home, whether they rent or own. And so you don't have to worry about, will this pay back? Like, am I going to stay in this place for long enough for this investment to pay back? So the utility makes the investment for the homeowner or the renter, or the homeowner, I guess somebody owns it. And then, but it pays back it pays back for the utility through some rebates that it gets, or through the energy efficiency work, you know, state level stuff. But she was looking for, like, they needed more capital to kind of like, so the utilities could borrow capital at a cheap rate to then spend the capital. But it sounds like that is in this bill as like a way to do that. So they were excited about that.
Interesting. So, and that was the same bill, or is this a different bill? I lost track at some point. This is a different bill, or the same Energy Affordability, Independence, and Innovation Act?
This is the same Energy Affordability and Independence.
Okay.
Independence and Innovation Act. Yeah.
Okay, so that all sounds really good. We could do another heat pump something too, just you know, the behavioral independent behavior stuff. But I sort of like the idea of switching a little bit and working a bit more on larger policies and trying to get people aware of what's going on around them. I really think from my point of view, nothing has worked better at getting people to involved in this heat pump program or getting the word out about heat pumps than something like the Sustainability Festival. I almost feel like maybe if we want to get the word out about behavior changes, we should just sit in a booth somewhere in the middle of the Amherst. Maybe we should just have a regular booth at the farmers market or something like that, right? That might be a more effective way of getting folks to, because they don't have to come to you. They pass by and they realize, oh shoot, that's right, my boiler just blew up. Oh, and look, there's somebody advertising heat pumps or talking about heat pumps. It almost works better to just be there at the right moment.
Or you could offer up like heat pump office hours and have the last hour of this meeting. People can call in or join in and ask questions.
idea.
I don't know.
That's a
think
good
they're-
idea. Or just ECAC office hours.
Yeah.
Ask your questions. Come ask your questions. Give us your comments. I like that idea. People love office hours. Maybe we can even do it live one day, like at the Black Sheep or something. Just, have coffee with ECAC.
Okay, well, that's gonna be an issue. You can't have a
Coffee with
quorum.
one person from each.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We can't have a quorum. That's right. No, okay, that won't work. Never mind.
I mean, you could do it, you just can't,
It's
have a quorum.
public.
well, yeah. I mean, it's gotta be posted, but
Okay, all right. All right, so there's a lot of good ideas there. I will try to condense them a bit and send out a list for people to think about, for people to refine next week, and also think about who might do this and when we can do the first one and that sort of thing. Maybe reach out to your networks if there's somebody, if you have an expertise that you want to talk about, or somebody who has something they might want to talk about, or we could try to get them to talk about. I think that would be an interesting thing to do, to try to clean it up next week and come up with a plan. Cool. Okie dokie. Back to the agenda. If there's anything else on education series. If not, education outreach, we have the PACE program. Don.
I haven't done anything.
We did have one person who wanted to know what it was at the Sustainability Festival. They have a couple of properties that they rent, but it's only 2 or 3 units, 4 units in
Yeah.
each. It has to be 5 or over for it to be eligible for PACE. So we sent them to the heat pump program instead. And it's not clear that they can even help with that, right? That's the stuff that falls in the cracks. Because, well, it's complicated. It falls in the cracks and it's not clear how to deal with it. I think every case is different. But Mass CET can certainly point people in the right direction, I think. All right, coordination with local groups. Tony, anything else?
No, unfortunately, Elevate is no longer a program at UMass. The current administration canceled the NSF funding that sustained it. So
Jesus.
we're thinking of alternative methods of still staying engaged in the same way, and I'll keep you guys updated on that.
I didn't know about that. When did that happen?
Last Monday.
God damn. I'm sorry.
I know.
That really is horrible.
It was a pretty big bummer. Especially since it is
there
such a good program.
Are there students without funding who need funding, or is the university?
Yeah. Well, the Zoe and the other leaders of Elevate are trying to find a way to supplement the summer funding just because of the immediacy, but there's no funding for the next year. Like the program itself will not even exist. We can't even have Elevate meetings.
Well, you can have meetings, call it something else.
Yeah.
Elevate.
Maybe we can do that at the Black Sheep instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I hope the UMass administration comes through with some funds to at least pay folks through the end of their degrees.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Um,
fingers crossed, but
they've been trying to do that, but I think as the number of programs canceled grows. Well, this is where we are. All right, so any other local group information from anyone? Okay, heat pumps. I don't have anything else to add to heat pumps other than there were, about 2 or 3 people at the festival that I have to get back to. And the Northampton program has a website now, which I failed to find a link to, but they are live now and have a website and everything, and paid through some program. And they are interested in eventually making it a larger area thing. The problem is most of their coaches right now are in Northampton. And I may work with them a little bit and see if they can start including Amherst and Pelham, because we each have one coach in each of those places. It just means they have to pay more for the website, and LEA has been paying for that out of their budget. Yeah, so that's the only thing I've got there. The heat pump program, I guess we'll hear about any updates from Stephanie later. Climate resilient schools, I haven't heard anything about lately. Anything else in education and outreach? If not, then on to advisory and support. Okay, I have some really bad news out of UMass, which is that they paid $500,000 to upgrade their cogeneration plant this year, something that they claim needed to be done anyway, because the controls were 20 years old and out of date. Not quite 20 years old, but about that long, close. And while they were doing that, they just happened to go ahead and retrofit it to burn either diesel or methane. So we now have a diesel burning cogeneration plant on campus. And I thought that required a permit. And they're saying, no, it doesn't, which astounds and shocks me because diesel burns much dirtier than methane. And you would think that somebody would be regulating that. They have promised to not burn more than 100,000 gallons again next winter. They burned 70,000 this winter and had 30,000 left over. And I'm pretty sure their plan for it is to burn it in the cogeneration plant. And they'll probably do the same thing next year. Hopefully they won't do more than that. At this point, I don't believe anything they tell me, but they have promised. Tillman Wolf got up and said that they would not buy more than 100,000 gallons of renewable diesel for next year. So we'll see. So that's not great. Other than that, they're still looking for solutions, but they are pretty good at knocking down almost anything that folks suggest. So we've all been sent home with homework over the summer to look into different possibilities. But it's, the group has no budget. There's not a consultant working with us or a finance person. It has 3 faculty members and Erin Baker, 4 with Erin Baker, 3 faculty senate members, and the Energy Transition Institute person, and then the rest is and then a student from the student governments, 1 from the graduate, 1 from the undergraduate, and then the rest are all administrators. So it's a bit of a, I don't know, in my personal opinion, I think it's ridiculous that they think that we can solve this problem for them. They have a plan, they just need to stick to it, and they're not. So unlike Amherst, which has been following its CARP and making progress, they have chosen to basically jettison theirs, and they're trying to get us to rewrite it, which is ridiculous. I will continue to push back against that. This group will not be rewriting their climate plan. So that's where we are there. And the problem is again, expense. It's to pull off what was suggested in the original climate plan is incredibly expensive. And every public university that has steam tunnels that has steam running their heating systems has the same problem. And there are a lot of them. The privates are converting to low temperature hot water, but that is exactly what is too expensive for UMass to do. So they claim. All right, at any rate, their emissions went up this year, not down. I have nothing more to say about that. So unless there are questions or comments, Steve? You want to talk about this draft solar bylaw? Anything new there?
Nothing new there. I
The
believe
meeting's
there was a meeting last week, perhaps,
The
CRC meeting, but
week before, and now there's a meeting tomorrow.
tomorrow. It's always right after.
And it's it's every 2 weeks, and it's from 3 to 5 now.
And by the way, since this is the advisory and support section of the discussion, we did send a letter to the town council advising them about what was going on at UMass, and I hope they're talking to somebody there, because this is something that folks in the valley really ought to be getting upset about. And I don't think people know about it. There has been some press now, but not enough. There have been 2 articles I know of. One of them in the Gazette was not very good. The other one's a little better, but it's in the Science Cafe website. It's just a local thing, more of a blog than a newspaper. So I wonder if we can get our NEPR interested. Maybe I'll try calling them. Yeah, if it got on the radio, it might actually get some. I did do an interview on it on the UMass radio, but maybe that's the next thing I'll do is work on NEPR. All right, so nothing on draft solar bylaw. Transportation, Tony, anything?
It's not ours, it's Sunderland's, but there is a project underway that's expected to be completed in June for a 6.7 mile connector rail between Sunderland, Deerfield, I think Deerfield is near us, and Amherst.
Connector rail or trail?
Yeah, trail, sorry.
Trail, like a rail trail.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Which is nice, especially given concerns about biking and other things.
Yeah. That would be really nice. Is there a way we can support that?
No idea on that. I do know that Sunderland got a huge grant to complete it, and their expected date to complete it is the last day of June. So it seems like everything is moving pretty smooth. They're going to
Okay.
do it in
Where did they get the
sections.
grant
That's going to
from?
be annoying.
I wonder where they got the grant from. And if that's something that,
It's the Mass Trails grant.
I wonder if we can get a Mass Trails grant to put something along Pelham Road.
That would be nice.
Something to look into. You're right. All right. Regional and state policy updates. We sort of covered that. I was going to talk about we mentioned the bills that are in front of us, and those are the sorts of things I think we should do more of. So since we covered that earlier, I won't say anything more now. Anyone else have any other updates? Staff updates. Stephanie.
I just wanted to first thank you all so much for your participation in the Sustainability Festival. The feedback I got from vendors and folks who did go was all very, very positive. People really enjoyed it and had really great conversations. CET told me at their most recent update that they had 5 more folks interested as a result of the festival. So that's 5 on top of the 15 that we already have in the pipeline that are going to sign up. So that's great. They also, CET informed me that 1 household has completely converted now. They're already through the process. I think this is, it's probably the household that had some communication with the town manager. He literally ran into somebody who just told him that they had participated in the program, and they had nothing but glowing, wonderful things to say about their experience with CET. So really, really thankful that that is going as well as it is. So that's wonderful news. Our bike share provider was at the festival, and from Drop Mobility, also representing Valley Bike Share Network, and they had a lot of interest as well at the festival. Someone from the town of Parmer was really interested and excited about them being there and talking to them and talking about bringing bike share over to Palmer as well. So that was really exciting that, potentially there's another community interested in that as a result of the festival. So that was really great news. Let's see, that's the festival. I updated CET. I think the only other few things I wanted to let you know about is that the town of Amherst was invited from the Clean Energy Extension at UMass to participate in a potential funding grant that would be more education and outreach around decarbonization. It's called just give me one second. It's already happening with another group of communities in the state called Plug-in. This one would be Plug-in Western Mass. And so we would be working with like Mass Energize, the Clean Energy Extension, and other community-based partners to get more information out to residents about decarbonization. So through solar, through heat pumps. So it's really an education campaign, but it's a much more even elevated outreach to everyone. So I think it would really pair well with what we're doing now, because it would run for about 18 months. So it might partner well with the heat pump program and even maybe a little bit beyond, which would be good because then it might extend the outreach that much farther. So hopefully they'll get the funding. But if they do, I would be the point of contact, working with them closely on this effort. And of course, you all would be looped in, obviously. But I will keep you posted. We had to write a letter of support for our participation. And so Paul Bockelman signed a letter and hopefully that will happen.
Yep. That's awesome. Thank you, Stephanie.
Sure.
Always lots of exciting things going on in the town. I want to say I sent one more person just today to the heat pump program. A guy at work who has a house just north of campus. That should be perfect for it, I would think. And I want to encourage everybody else. They still had lots of capability, even after the sustainability festival. We sent them a few more. They got a few more customers. They still have lots of capacity. Right, so they could double the number of houses that have already contacted them pretty easily, I think, because it's not clear, they have so many contacts, but not all of them are going to go all the way through the process. So they really do need more clients. So please do reach out, talk to your neighbors. If you hear someone who's thinking about doing this, or if you have a landlord who you might convince to do this, right, send them over to the heat pump program.
And I will say the 15 that we have are committed households.
They are.
So those are committed households, which is why I was saying like they're in the pipeline working through. And there were some households who only wanted to do partials and they chose
Right.
not to work with them because this program is committed to doing entire conversions, getting people completely off fossil fuels and
Right, so
converting
the-
to heat pumps.
So
it's
they're not
whole home.
eligible. They're not eligible for the rebate, but are they not getting any help at least in the way of coaching?
I think they're giving them some support, but they're not going to have the handhold. I mean, the commitment for this program is to get households to completely convert.
Yeah.
So the funding that we're giving is supporting that, but part of the
That's right.
funding that we're using is from CET to support their outreach. So, I mean, we have limited funds to do a targeted goal. So
Okay. So Stephanie, if there are households that want help that they're not able to help because they're not doing a full conversion, you can send them to me as a volunteer heat pump coach. I'd be happy to talk to them.
sure. And I think that's probably part of what this program with the outreach that would happen with Dwayne and company would also be
Right.
able to support that as well.
Right. Okay. ECAC member updates. Any other updates? My two updates, I already said, one was the Solomon Goldstein Rose discussion, which was quite interesting, and the other was the UMass situation. So let's see. In that case, we're at items for the next agenda. There's nothing else, no more updates. No one's been to an interesting conference or know. All right, so items for the next agenda, I'd say we're going to discuss the outreach program again for sure. We could even put that under education and outreach as, you know, education series. It could be either way, or it could be its own thing, like it was this time. We're going
I'm
to
gonna
finish the
I'm going to put it as its own item, Lori,
Okay.
just because I think you have more, what you're sending out to everybody and what you're asking people to consider will take more time.
more time. Yep. Okay. There's also the op-ed, finishing up the op-ed.
Talk more about educational series.
Yeah, that was what we were just, yeah.
No. Op-ed, possible tour of.
Oh, yeah.
Barstow's?
Tour of Barstow. Get this cycle back on that. That could be under education and outreach as a separate thing, just this one time, because that won't take long. I haven't heard climate resilient schools at all lately, so we could even take that out and just put in Barstow tour ? Or other ECAC events, ECAC sponsored events ? I'd love to figure out a way to have a bigger impact on transportation, but I think that's going to be, you know, maybe if we get a super fun bill passed, we'll be able to fix the roads up and put bike paths everywhere and get some green paint.
Be nice.
I think that's all I got. Was there anything, did I miss anything? Not. We're back to public comment, but there are no attendees. So do we have a move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
All right. Second.
I'll second.
All right, see y'all in 2 weeks. Take care.
Bye all. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Good night.